Hey, what's up guys? Joker here. Today we're going to be taking a look at my new daily driver headphones, the Fostex T50RP Mark IIIs as modified by Mayflower Electronics. So these are actually an updated version to the Mark II headphones, the T50RPs, which have been favorited among the modding community for quite a while. Usually people will go pick these headphones up because they're relatively cheap at under $150, and in that they're actually including orthodynamic drivers, which, you know, a lot of people do consider to be better than the standard dynamic drivers, and you usually only see those in much more high-end headphones like the Hi-Fi Mans, which you see starting up around $300. So a lot of people love picking up these headphones for relatively cheap and then modifying them and doing a lot of the adjustments on their own. What Mayflower does, though, is they kind of take that step out of it. So if you want to get yourself a good pair of orthodynamic headphones, but you don't want to modify them yourselves, they kind of do that stuff for you by adding on some new pads, which are much nicer compared to the ones that come on the stock version of the Fostex T50RPs. And they also do some work on the internal drivers as well to kind of adjust the sound stage. Now, the version 3s that we're looking at here today are the more bass-heavy model. They do also have a version 1, which is a little bit closer to a studio reference model. It's going to be a little bit more analytical, while this is going to be a bit more bass-heavy. But in my testing versus the previous version 3s on the Mark IIs from Mayflower, I feel that they've done an incredible job, not only just with the stock Mark IIIs, but also what Mayflower has done here with the bass. It's a lot more tight. It's a lot tighter. In my opinion, it doesn't really kind of like shake your cheeks anymore. Like if you just go ahead and bump up the bass to the max on something, it's not going to like rock these things off your head just because of the bass. It's a lot tighter, but it's still very punchy and strong in the bass, in my personal opinion. But let's look at some of the specs for the T50RP Mark III. So frequency response is coming in at 15 Hz to 35 kilohertz, so we're getting a decent frequency response there, and a maximum input power of 3,000 milliwatts and a 50 ohm impedance on these headphones. So they are going to take a decent amount of power to drive. I am using one of the Mayflower DACs, the O2s that I've had for quite a while, and that is, you know, more than enough power to be able to drive this at about 75% volume with no gain, or I could put the gain on and then I could leave it at about 50%. But it does take some power to go ahead and drive these. Now, I was able to use them with my Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge without any issues and get a comfortable listening volume, but I wasn't able to, you know, ramp it up to really be able to like blow it out. So if you're someone that wants to listen on your phone and have like really, really loud volume, you're not going to be able to hit that, but it was still a very comfortable listening experience, and I would say that you could use these with your mobile device if that's something you want to do. The weight for the stock version of the T50RPs is 315 grams, but with the modifications and the new Brainwaves pads on here, it brings the total weight up to around 360 grams or about 0.75 pounds. Now, the Brainwaves pads on here are memory foam. They're super nice and comfy. They're probably one of the most comfortable pairs of headphones that I've ever really worn, honestly. And you can actually, if you want to get different color pads, you can do that. These come in quite a variety of different colors. They have like yellow, purple, gray, white. So if you want a different color, I'm sure you can get in touch with Mayflower and they will go ahead and do a different color for you if you want it, no additional charge. I talked to Tyler and he said they'd be able to do that. They are eventually going to be adding different colors onto the website, but right now they just have the black ones on there. But like I said, if there's a different color you want and it's available on Amazon, which I'll link to down in the description below, you could just let Mayflower know and they should be able to accommodate a different color for you. So my only real big issue with the T50RP Mark IIIs are the cables that come with them stock. So you get two cables along with it. You get a 1/4-inch cable, which is 10 feet long, about 3 meters, and you get a 3.5 millimeter cable, which is about 4 feet or 1.2 meters in length. The 3.5 millimeter cable is orange, and it kind of has like a almost like a springy feel to it. It's very, very bouncy, and it's also painfully short. The 4 feet length on it is, I would say, really only ideal for mobile use. So if you wanted to have a short cable for something on the go, then it could be useful for that. But for me, using this at the desktop with my DAC, which uses a 3.5 millimeter input, I just found this to be agonizingly short, and I was constantly pulling my DAC off the desk. And then I opted to use the 1/4-inch cable, which I had to use with a different amplifier, unfortunately, because I didn't like having to use a different attachment. But this cable also, this one, while it's long enough, it's about 10 feet long. It's a kind of the plasticky type cables, and it's not really nice to use. And also, after just a few days, actually, this cable started to drop connection on the left ear cup of the Fostex T50RPs, because these actually lock in. So even though it's a 3.5 millimeter into the headphone, it actually has a locking mechanism which goes in a little bit deeper. So if you're thinking about just throwing on any 3.5 millimeter to 3.5 cable, just be aware that you are going to need something that is able to go a little bit deeper in, as it is kind of recessed into the cup on the headphones themselves. Now, you can get the V-Moda cable, which is what I'm using here, and they actually have that as an additional add-on on the Mayflower website, and it's an extra $15, and it is an add-on that I highly recommend you consider getting, whether you get it from Mayflower or if you already have one yourself. They work extremely well, and it's a nice cable too. It's a good length. It's 3.5 to 3.5, and because it has a long kind of inserted design here, it's able to get all the way into the T50RPs without issue, and it stays locked in very well. And yeah, I think from the options that I've seen around, the V-Moda cable is probably the best way to go, which is probably why they are offering it over on the Mayflower website. Now, the headband also got a huge redesign here on the Mark IIIs. On the previous one, they had a sort of like rubber molded one, which was not comfortable at all, and Mayflower had to do additional modifications with that, putting some padding on the bottom, so that added to their manufacturing costs for the modifications. But now, this time around, they didn't have to do any of that, because Fostex put on a nice kind of like faux leather headband, which is extremely comfortable, and you really don't need to do any additional modification there in order to have a comfortable headband. I found that this was comfortable for extremely long sessions of use. And you can adjust the size on the headphones as well. Obviously, it has metal bars on the sides here, which you can go ahead and slide up and down. It kind of has a silver finish on the newer ones versus the copper finish on the previous ones. The only problem I had here with these is that they didn't really click into place incredibly well. I found that they would kind of slide up and down over time. So if I was really getting into my music and rocking out, sometimes they would tend to slip off of my head. So I hope that in the future, maybe Fostex looks at a way of maybe making these kind of just either lock into place better, or maybe adding some ridges along on the metal bars themselves so they kind of click into place. Just some further refinement there to help improve the clamping force on the head, I think could be improved there. Like I said, it's not really, it doesn't really have a very tight clamp. As it sits right now, it's good enough, but like I said, if you really start rocking out and getting into your music, they will tend to start slipping, and they can slide off of your head rather easily. The last design adjustment on here are the orange accents, which I'm actually a fan of. I think they look really good. You guys can let me know down in the comments what you think about the orange. They took like a orange sleeving and put it over what was previously a black rubber cable, and also the text on the side of the ear cups used to be like kind of like a tan off-white color. They decided to just go for a plain white now, and I think overall just looks like a much more refined product, even just coming from Fostex. And then when you add in the modifications from Mayflower, it just makes it even better, improving that bass response inside the headphones, and then also the pads themselves on here just really do make them like the most comfortable headphones that I've ever worn, and that is why they have continued to be my daily driver since I started testing them about a month or two ago. So the price on these at the time of me making this over on MayflowerElectronics.com is $249. And if you want to get the additional V-Moda cable, like I said, I think that is kind of an essential add-on. That's an extra $15. And then if you do want to get a hard case, that's an additional $85. So those are additional add-ons though, and the hard case is really not necessary. But if you wanted to kind of go balls to the wall and add everything onto it, the cable and the hard case, that would bring up the cost at $350. But just the headphones themselves, the way that they sit here, are $250, and then an extra $15 for the V-Moda cable. But if you actually use my promo code on the website when you check out Joker, if you just put Joker in, you'll get $10 off. So that's like almost getting the V-Moda cable for free. So I highly recommend you do that if you do decide to pick up a pair of the Fostex T50RPs Mark III. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get on out of here, guys. Please let me know your thoughts on the Fostex Mark IIIs down in the comments below. Like I said, you know, these things are extremely comfortable. The bass is good, which is going to be good in things like gaming, and if you like to just listen to basic music, bassy music in general. But it wasn't so much to detract from, you know, listening to music like metal. As you guys know, I'm a big metalhead, so I didn't really find that the bass was overpowering in the sense that the you know, the mids and the highs were getting drowned out, or you were losing any of that. So overall, just a good listening experience. I could even use these things for video editing, but like if you want that, you know, really strong bass, then you're going to get that in these, but not as strong as on the Mark IIs. Just a lot tighter and a little bit more punchy, in my personal opinion. So, gonna go ahead and get out of here, and I will catch you guys next time. Turn.